Welcome to this week's episode of Marijuana Mind. That's right, a little rooster in the
It's
background.
perfect timing.
Yours truly, Dr. J. Davis, and my truly a hoot co-host, Cynthia Brewer.
Oh my
And
gosh, how absolutely PG of you.
yeah, and we have great guests today too. Do you want to get right to that, or do you have anything else you want to bring up?
Are we not going to talk about the giant elephant in the podcast room? You
Giant
are
chicken in the room.
exactly. There are unlike normal days, there are a bunch of rooster hens. What are they?
It's a combination. I mean, the roosters obviously because they're crowing, and there's hens, and you might see a few poodles in the background or
I
guinea
saw two
hens.
poodles so far. I'm playing the farm yard bingo, and I have two poodles. I think I had two cocks and a couple of hens. I'm waiting to see. Yeah, I'm waiting to see something weird. I love the alfresco scene that you have behind you, though. It's very naturey.
Well, you say I'm not at the office, as you can tell, so I'm at home. So I thought, in honor of our guest today, Angela Ardolino, did I say that right?
You did perfect.
Why not bring it to nature?
Well, tell our listeners out there and our viewers on YouTube why you chose to be in nature al fresco for Miss Ardolino.
But I don't have notes with me because I'm outside, but I know that you were born and raised in Miami, Florida, as a matter of fact. You have a little interesting story about how you escaped Florida recently, which we
Yep.
want to get back to. But you're definitely an animal lover. We know that. You have a farm. Is it the Fireside Farm
Fire
and a
Flake Farm.
I feel
Fire
like he's just
Flake?
guessing because he doesn't have his notes. He went all the way to the outside and then he just gave up. So let me help you out, Justin, here.
Wait, I wasn't
Because
done. I have more. I
I
have
know, but
more.
it sounded like you were guessing her life.
Fire Flake, Fireside. It's close. It's
It's
close.
not the
But
same.
but if you're gonna look it up, it's Fire Flake. To be
Yeah, make
clear.
sure you look up Fire
Yes.
Flake Farms. Angela Ardolino from Miami, but has now escaped to the West Coast. She is no longer one of us, but we still love her and adore her. She's the founder of Myco Dog, House of Alchemy, Tampa Bay Parenting Magazine, Miami Children's Theater, an animal lover, dedicating her life to the holistic treatment of our four-legged companions. She treats, she rescues, she advocates, and she is on our show today on the Marijuana Mind.
Yay!
I feel like that.
What do I do now?
I feel like the big topics will be with the CBD and the myco treatments as well. But I want to hear more about this children's theater that you headed.
Oh,
On the Marijuana Mind, let's talk about children's theater.
well, it's
Well, that's
really
a pretty.
cool. I can figure out how to make it segue into what I currently do. But yeah, the reason I just started the Miami Children's Theater was because when I was 10 years old, I got invited to be in a group that traveled around and did magic shows.
Are you serious?
Yep. It was called the Mini Magicians. It was in Miami.
I
And
feel like this is amazing. There was a mini magician group out of Miami, Florida that has
Yep.
asked you to join them when you were a kid.
when
And
I
you
was
did
10. Now it
traveling
sounds
magic.
really creepy, like if you were to like talk about
100%.
it now. But
Mhm.
back when the world wasn't so creepy. But that experience and being in that group changed who I was as a human being. So
I
when
think
I
people
went
would say
out,
that. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, like she would do things. She was a badass. The woman that ran it, Sandy Faye. She literally would go, all right, you're gonna light this on fire, throw it in that, put that on there, lift this, press this, and a bunny's gonna appear. And I remember being like, oh, and she'd be like, what's wrong? Do it. I'm
What is wrong with you?
scared. I'm scared of the fire. She'd be like, why are you scared of the fire? And my 10-year-old self would go, I don't know why I'm scared of the fire. Why am I scared of the fire? Why am I scared of the balloon popping? Why am I scared of? So it literally changed who I was. So when I went to, my 26-year-old self wanted to figure out how to make a difference in the world. My mom said to me, what did you ever do that you loved? And I'm like, well, when I did magic and theater, and then I ended up teaching other kids magic and theater. I want to do that. So that's literally what my first business was. I started a nonprofit organization called the Miami Children's Theater. And how I can make that segue into what I do now is one of my co-owners in my current business is one of my former students. Oh, we're getting kisses.
People that can't see don't know the adorableness that's happening with Justin right now. So we're just
Please, guys, I'm in a podcast.
He's got two poodles in a podcast right now, but I'm totally
Oh,
paying
that
attention.
sounds like a name of a podcast. Two
Yes.
poodles in a podcast.
He's gonna branch off. So you were trying to figure out what it was that you really enjoyed doing. Although the fear that doing magic, traveling magic, was placed upon you, you were able to get over it enough to create the children's theater and teach other people.
Yep. So one of my favorite kids is now an adult, and he actually is a Broadway performer and was in Kinky Boots on Broadway and said to me, "Hey, I don't think I want to do this anymore." And I'm like, "What?" I go, "What do you want to do?" He goes, "I want to be an entrepreneur." And I said, "Great, save your money because you make a lot of money being a Broadway performer. And I'm working on something." And so he did. And so now one of my students is actually has ownership in my company that is CBD Dog Health, where I basically make adaptogenic tinctures and tonics using cannabis, mushrooms, and other adaptogens.
And when you say mushrooms, you're not talking psilocybin.
I am not talking about psilocybin. I'm talking about
important point to make.
However, I do have several dogs on psilocybin because we're testing that already on how it helps them with PTSD and seeing amazing results.
How do you know if a dog has PTSD?
So, for instance, one of the dogs that we're working with, great dog, he has deformities. He's a special. Some of the things we don't know what it's from, but most rescues probably have some sort of PTSD. And some of the things that he was doing was every time his male owner would come home, he'd pee on the floor.
Dude probably beat his butt, and now he's afraid of dudes.
And the turning over and showing your belly, the submissive and peeing everywhere is, there's still that fear or that traumatic response in there. Dog doesn't do it anymore.
And you think
after the psilocybin?
After the psilocybin. So like this is what's so beautiful about anything that's natural is that, people can research it. You learn how the biology works. You learn how to use it as a therapeutic agent. And then you go, okay, so imagine, Justin, you're on your farm and something happens to one of your animals and you're like, oh, I remember that crazy lady Angela said to do this, and you do it and it works. And not only does it work, there's no weird side effect. They literally go back to normal. You're literally supporting the animal's innate ability to heal itself and fix itself. So that's literally what all these wonderful plants and fungi do. And this is how animals in the wild treat themselves. It's called zoopharmacognosy. What do you think happens when the coyote gets a bellyache or an injury? They go out and find those plants, those healing plants and mushrooms, and eat them.
How do you think they know which ones are going to be healing for them?
It's innate. They just know. Now, as I always say to people, just like us, there are smart dogs and not so smart dogs.
Dumb dogs.
There's a spectrum. So you're going to have the dog that's going to eat the poisonous mushroom. That's going to happen because
I have a dog that's on the spectrum, and he ate.
I have 3 right now. My last 3 rescues that are in the RV with me. Yes.
Yeah. So he ate, or well, not ate. He brought me a coral snake as a gift, and he got bit by it. But because they metabolize the poisons differently, that he survived. But then I had to go half it with a machete from Harbor Freight.
What? Maybe you should cut that part out.
What? How should I cut it out? I mean, that's how it was in the house. He brought it to me as a gift. It was raining. And it could have, if it bit me, I could have died. So I had to have it.
Yeah, you just take you hold down its head, you pick it up and you throw it out.
Yeah. Let's say, okay, never mind. I did that.
Yeah.
I did that. That's exactly
for
what I
those
did.
of you who don't live in Florida, this is normal.
Yeah, thank you. There are a lot of 7 venomous snakes in the state that we are going to see, and they are prevalent everywhere, and that is one of them. So suck it, Justin. Okay. I hacked it. It took a while because that Harbor Freight machete was very dull, but I am alive. And so, how do you see, well, besides the dog that I have that's on the spectrum, and then I have a dog that's incredibly smart, one that can probably figure out how to open doors, that actually can talk. If you're like, where'd the squirrel go? He's like, over there. And
Right.
it sounds just like he has responses, like a little human.
Does he
How
sound like Scooby-Doo when he says that?
no, he sounds like almost like a clown or like when you release air out of a balloon. It's weird, but thank you for asking. So but they were both rescues and they both had trauma, very different. One was more physical abuse and then one was more emotional abuse. You know, he was on the Green Mile because he wasn't going up to people to play with them and say, "Oh, adopt me, I'm so cute." He was just playing with some fabric. So they were
Right.
like, "No one's gonna adopt him," and they didn't until I came along. Best dog ever. How do
Awesome.
you know if your dog is dumb? Like,
That's your question for Angela.
so all of that leading up, how do you know if you have a dumb, she's cracking up. I love it. How do you know if you have a dumbass dog?
Oh
And
gosh.
if maybe therapy could help him.
Well, it's
Be-
funny because I think that was a great question. And I'm literally, I don't know if you know, I have a podcast about
I
it's called Your
do.
Natural Dog. And I'm going to do a whole episode in your honor about how do you know if you have a dumb dog?
I would
Because
like to come on because I have a couple theories. I'm just
because
saying.
you honestly never you don't know it until you have multiple dogs or more than one dog. Because
Yeah.
my first dog, when I compare my first dog to, have you heard the term soul dog? Like
No.
the dog that you connect to like soulfully, like where you're like, so my first dog, Lucy, I lost her at 7, and that's what sent me on this journey of figuring out what I did wrong. I lived across the street from a brand new state-of-the-art veterinary clinic. I did everything they told me to do. I fed the food they told me. I did all the vaccinations. I did everything, and she was gone at 7 years old.
From what?
And I remember no, no, they actually nobody could say what she had or what was wrong with her. So I had an autopsy done, and all they found was IBD, irritable bowel. I now know what I did. I over vaccinated her. I put chemicals and pesticides all over her. I fed her a shitty kibble diet. I did everything wrong. So she was my first lesson. But what was interesting is when I lost her, I was so devastated, and it really sent me on the path to figure out, because was already living a pretty natural lifestyle and like getting chemicals out. I didn't use anything on my yard or in my cleaning products or any of that already. So it really messed me up. But when I got my next schnauzer, I was like, I don't even know if I want to get another dog, because I'm never going to love a dog. And I loved Lucy. Holy shit. I loved Odie so much. Like, Odie was my soul dog. So now I know what my soul dog is. Like, literally, I yell at my rescues all the time. Why can't you be like Odie?
I know, right? And I'm
And
checking
those
off
things
as you
matter,
go through
how
these
you raise them.
stories, the dogs that I know that you have or have had. And so I'm checking off as you go and you name the dogs that you've owned because I want
Oh,
to
yeah.
know about them.
Yes. And then Odie was like, I didn't think that I could love a dog more than I loved Lucy, but Odie, I did everything right. Almost everything right. I'm still learning and would probably do things different. But I lost Lucy at age 7, and I just lost Odie this year at 16 and a half years old. So I learned something and I applied it, and I got more than double out of the next one. And yeah, knowing, you know, the biggest lesson I've learned is that they're just like us with a few differences. When it comes to cannabis, they have more receptors in their endocannabinoid system than
Yeah.
we do. So they're more sensitive to THC than us. But that does not mean they shouldn't get the THC. They have to get the THC. If you want me to talk about it, the broad spectrum and isolate products in the
Mhm.
pet space are out of control. Like, I'll never forget when I first entered the space, I was like, why is broad spectrum even here? I thought it just existed. That's how naive I was. I thought it just existed for, those that were trying to find something and were going to get drug tests. Dogs don't get drug tests. What the hell are they doing with a broad spectrum product? kind of thing.
When
Well,
you say broad spectrum, though, do you just mean that it has the full array of naturally occurring cannabinoids, terpenes, isoflavonoids, or do you mean with high THC?
yeah, see, so in the terms used in the human world and the terms used in the pet world are also different and messed up. So broad spectrum means they took the THC out.
They took the THC out,
How do
Right.
they
is what.
take out the THC? Is
They're
it hemp
stupid.
based or cannabis based?
It's hemp based.
Okay, so the THC would never have been there. So it would be
No,
at
the
low,
THC is in there. It's just
well,
very low.
low to, yeah, it needs to be
Enough
a
to
genetic that's
make it synergistic and enough to make THC bind to the CB2 receptors so that then the CBD actually does something. If THC is not in that tincture, then I don't know what the hell you have, but the CBD and everything else that binds to the CB2 receptor isn't binding because you've taken out the most important compound, which is THC.
So what are you calling an isolate in this?
Isolate.
like
So
a
an isolate is the same.
isolated cannabinoid.
Isolate.
What?
Isolate, I also call shit. So either, that may be another name that I call it
But
in
the
our world.
but the full spectrum you're saying is without THC as well
For dogs.
for
No,
dogs.
full spectrum hemp extract has THC. A full
Broad
spectrum
spectrum,
broad
multi-spectrum
spectrum
may not
is
have
they've taken
THC.
out the THC.
So that's slightly different in the cannabis world. I remember when we started the lab that like I was trying to educate our testing clients about CBD products because we weren't allowed to test cannabis yet. We could only test CBD and
Right.
trying to multi-spectrum, broad, full. Like to me, it's like if I test for 11 cannabinoids and you say it's a full spectrum, I better see every single one present on the test. That's almost impossible. So even with cannabis, that's almost impossible. So we would say broad or multi-spectrum, where it's a full extract. It's not going to be that clean, like white powder, which doesn't have any medical benefit. Justin really, as a physician, has advocated for the people's use of a full spectrum product to get the, like almost like an RSO, right, Justin?
Yeah, not 100% of the time. Some people
Yeah.
interestingly do better with isolates, but yes. So,
Oh, I would love to learn about that because I was a huge advocate in Florida. So we probably have bumped into each other or been at some of the same events, but because I was such a big advocate and traveled all over the country, I got invited to the University of Vermont School of Medicine's inaugural class for the study of cannabis for its therapeutic uses in biology. So that's where I learned that animals have the endocannabinoid system just like us. And that's when I decided, okay, there's my two passions, cannabis, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to become, an expert on that, which is what I did. But I don't, we don't, and from that education, nothing, stay away from isolates. We learned basically just getting all of those essential oils and compounds out of the flower of the plant, of the cannabis plant, whether it's marijuana or hemp. That's what you want. And you want all of it. We don't want to take it and over process it and try to take parts out. Now you've messed up this beautiful natural medicine that works if you just extract it the right way and preserve it the right way and give it to the patient the right way. And those that are scared or have been scared away from THC from their pet, I'm here to tell you, my Doberman was diagnosed with osteosarcoma, and I treated her completely holistically, and I gave her 10 milligrams of RSO on her gums every single night. And not only did it not Nina, not only did it not hurt her, it helped her. I didn't have to use anything else for pain. And osteosarcoma is a bone cancer. It's very painful and it spreads within 4 to 6 months to the lungs, and your dog is dead. Nina, I did a full spectrum. Well, it's funny because I learned to apply some of the things that I learned, like, for instance, giving her the 10 milligrams of RSO gave her incontinence, which was her only side effect. So I would also give her about 40 milligrams of a full spectrum hemp extract because I know CBD dampens the effects.
Yep.
So it completely stopped that. So she literally had no side effects whatsoever from me giving her that every night at bedtime. She just slept through it.
So it was a THC forward and CBD supplement that you gave to your dog, because I want people to understand that, like, where you're saying it's okay to give THC to a dog, it's not okay to give too much THC to a dog. Although cannabis has never killed a human, there's never been a death of cannabis, like no one can,
Never
take
killed
it.
anything. It's
Exactly.
never
It
killed
can
it. They
kill a
actually,
dog. It
right. And
can kill a
does
canine.
not kill a dog. Cannabis has never killed a dog. If it's a edible or some other isolate or something else, but pure cannabis extract has never killed a dog. In 1974, they actually did a study to see how much THC would kill an animal. And of course, like most studies, they research on animals, and they did it on rats, beagles, and chimpanzees. 2 rats died when they threw up in their sleep and asphyxiated themselves and died. No beagles died, no chimpanzees died. It was 9,000 milligrams of THC that they gave them. The chimpanzees, yeah, I can't even imagine that. And they can the chimpanzees, I forgot the amount of time, but within a couple months had metabolized it and had brought themselves back to normal and weren't even acting high anymore on 9,000 milligrams of THC. So yes, I challenge people all the time. There are veterinarians out there who are saying THC will kill your dog, that they've had cases, and usually I'll find out that it is not a pure product. It had chocolate or raisins or xylitol. So I want you to imagine me getting out of University of Vermont School of Medicine's program and going to a cannabis, conference or whatever, and seeing the exhibitors and finding a pet product where it was a human product that they just changed the label and put a paw print on it. And I'm reading the ingredients and xylitol is in it, a sweetener that will kill your dog. So imagine someone giving their dog that and then rushing to the vet and it dies and whatever. And who gets blamed? Cannabis, not the other shitty ingredients in that product that they bought.
I'm sure, I know it's case by case, of course, with anything, but if someone were just going to select a CBD product that was full spectrum, not so add the THC, what would you say, like on average, a good ratio would be of CBD to THC, and maybe how much would they give the dog, more or less, or any animal, I suppose, for that matter?
Yeah, from my experience, that 0.03% is enough. 0.02% is enough. It's still synergistic, and you're still just taking a whole extract out of the flower without over processing or doing anything with it. So it's only when we are dealing with extreme pain or extreme cases of cancer that I would add more THC. Otherwise, a very potent, well-made, full-spectrum hemp extract, and then adding some other cannabimimetic plants in there to make it more synergistic and powerful, because we have research that shows us when you put more adaptogens together, they become very powerful and synergistic. So doing that, you really can accomplish a lot. For instance, Odie, when he was 16 and a half, what took him was neurological, and he started having like seizure activity, and I could completely stop it with THC, but it would knock him out. So instead, during the day, I would put in other adaptogens with his full spectrum hemp extract so that I could keep the seizures from happening, but also not knock him completely out.
Can you just briefly describe for the listeners what an adaptogen is?
Yes, I would love to. And I think cannabis is the queen of all adaptogens. I believe she is the queen of them, and they all should be paired with her some way or somehow. But adaptogens are plants and fungi that when we take them, they literally adapt to the stressors in our body and fix whatever. Most adaptogens other than cannabis share some of the same compounds as cannabis does and interact with the endocannabinoid system. So to me, adaptogens and the endocannabinoid system are something that go hand in hand. Justin, I hear someone calling your name.
Yeah, I was about to say all of
your dogs talk.
All of your kids
Yes.
are grown.
Well, welcome to Poppy.
Hey,
Hi,
Poppy. I know her. We're best friends. She's cool. She's so funny. She's walking up and whispering to you. So let's talk a little bit about while Justin takes a small hiatus. Let's talk about some of the other. How many dogs have you owned that you treated with cannabis?
Oh shit, so many. Not only did I treat so many, one of my favorite things is I go to the holistic vet conference every year and I ask them, I'm like, what do you guys want to know? And they said, we want to know how you're using it, what it works on. And I'm like, great, that's what I'm gonna do. So at my rescue farm, I literally would partner with veterinarians and rescues. I also had groom shops, so many rescues came through that through there. And how I came up with all my formulas, because on a Friday and Saturday, we would see 70 to 100 dogs at my groom shop. And 85% of them were suffering from pain, skin issues, tumors, itching, allergies, biting their feet. They've given up on going to the veterinarian because every time they go, they're not getting anything. They're getting another drug and it doesn't do anything. It seems to make things worse or it's temporary. And that's when I was like, oh, okay, everybody needs help. I thought it was just these. So I literally took dogs that were, death's door, had cancer, suffering from seizures, were on multiple medications that weren't working, weaned them off, put them on a real food diet, feeding them real food and not kibble, and treating them with plants and mushrooms and bringing them back to homeostasis. Um, and putting cancer into remission and doing things that veterinarians weren't able to do. Now I have a full board of advisors of holistic and integrative veterinarians who are now using the medicine themselves and having the same great results over and over again. It's awesome. It's literally, I get every day, a new disease or something that I have never heard of, and I'll literally just Google it and cannabis research, find something and be like, yes, look, this is another disease based in inflammation. And what does cannabis do best is get rid of that inflammation so we know it's going to help. So there really isn't any animal I haven't been able to help. On my rescue, I rescued mostly farm animals and old dogs, but occasionally would have the possum or owl or raccoon and chickens. I mean, there isn't, I lizards, everybody has an endocannabinoid system, so they all can be helped by cannabis medicine.
How do you make sure what you give your dogs is safe for their consumption?
Great question. Make sure it has a certificate of analysis, whatever you're buying. So if you're buying a tincture or a treat, which, tinctures are better, especially if you're dealing with a dog in pain or, fighting some sort of disease, because gets absorbed right into the bloodstream versus a treat, which has to go through the whole digestive system. But make sure you get that COA, certificate of analysis, showing you that it is actually a full spectrum hemp extract and not a broad or an isolate, and all the stuff that shouldn't be in it, the pesticides, herbicides, heavy metals, all that good stuff.
You mentioned that there was a product that had a sugar substitute in
Xylitol.
it. But if the laboratory doesn't test for that, which none of my laboratories do, and none of the laboratories in the space that I know of would test for stuff like that, and we don't reverse engineer products, how do you make sure that what's in there doesn't have any additives if all of that's not completely transparent?
I love that you brought that up. So I would stick with a product that is specifically for pets. Mine, for instance, are human grade. I take them all, but they are made specifically for pets. So they don't have anything in them that would adversely react with them. So stick with a pet product or a pure product. You always want to check the ingredients because, again, someone could have buy a pure extract from a farmer and then put the wrong ingredients in it. So I see a lot of people putting in bacon flavoring and cheese flavoring. All that is extra stuff, chemicals that you don't need to put in there. And it's medicine and it should be treated like that. You don't need to put bacon and cheese flavoring in it. So the only ingredients should be what you recognize, the full spectrum hemp extract. If there's other adaptogens, those. So One of my formulations is full spectrum hemp extract with turmeric and frankincense, and an MCT oil and a hemp seed oil. Those are the ingredients. So limited ingredients, you can pronounce, you know what it all is.
Are you, oh, I thought she cut out for a second. She's like, it just stopped abruptly. So,
Does does it?
obviously, go ahead,
Oh,
Justin. Sorry.
does it have to be decarboxylated for animals as well, just like for
Yeah,
humans?
just like humans. The difference between the only difference between what animals need and what humans need is that just dogs are more sensitive to THC. It's not dangerous. It just means they're more sensitive and they don't need as much of it. There may be other animals that are that way. I haven't had the experience yet. Um, I'm thinking maybe prey animals might have more receptors for some reason, but they've only researched dogs and found it in dogs so far. But horses, all my other animals are basically kind of like human doses. Cats vary. I've had cats that need a whole bunch and cats that like take 2 drops and it's enough. But what I want people to understand is that it's an all natural medicine. You can't hurt and you have to find your animal's dose. So go slow and give them more until you can see they're not experiencing that pain or anxiety or whatever it is, that seizure or whatever it is. Seizures, actually, I like to go higher and see if I can take it back.
I've heard a few horror stories about people whose animals have gotten into their cannabis products, usually edibles, like they store them in their JanSport backpack in the closet. All of a sudden, Fluffy is baked on his back after eating a couple of brownies. Most of the time, because the potency of the brownies are incredibly, excessively high, in my opinion. So it's not like something that they can't open a childproof container here in Florida and access it. But the way that people store their edibles these days is very lackadaisical, I guess you could say, because kids are getting into it. So it's not surprising that pets could also get into it. What should someone do if they believe that their animal has been exposed to ingested high amounts of THC and they're not acting normal?
So the only
What's
thing
the
that you
best
need to
thing?
worry about is if there's any other ingredients in whatever that they ate that is dangerous. If it is a pure marijuana product, then they just need to get over the high. If you want to dampen that effect of the high, you can give them a full spectrum hemp extract or CBD, which will help lessen the length of the high and kind of bring them out of it. But otherwise, you make them comfortable until they get over it. Going to if you rush them to the ER, they're going to take your money. I actually know lots of ER vets that stop people in the parking lot and go, he's just high, go home, get over it.
Put on a good
Kind of thing.
video, some music, and
Exactly. Sit next to him
you
and
might have the
join him.
munchies.
Exactly. But yeah, it's perfect. It's not a dangerous situation. It's only dangerous when it's an isolate or you've got those other ingredients that our dogs shouldn't have. Chocolate, xylitol, raisins. But even dogs have gotten into edibles that don't have those bad things in it. They're still going to get high. They might get high. What makes no sense to me is when they get high off of flour.
That's almost like ridiculous to me.
Yeah,
Having a dog,
I
because I
don't
can't
really.
get high if I eat flour.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense, but people tell me that it's happened. So I'm like, okay. But how everybody's cannabis is different. So who knows if it's got something on it or what they're considering or calling it, but a pure cannabis product won't kill nobody. Impossible. In dogs, there's something called an LD50, which is meaning they can overdose and die. There is no LD50 on dogs with cannabis. There's also no placebo effect with dogs. So when you give your
I
dog,
believe the placebo effect part. I think that there's probably a lot more research and stuff that could be done on this, but also it's like, do you think it's fair to research on this on animals? You know,
oh
like
yeah,
at the same time, it's like, yeah, we should do more research to find out if there's anything that could happen, but then as a result, we're testing on
right.
animals.
But they already have. And all human research starts on animals. So
Well,
whatever
yeah, I mean,
whatever you
before we
don't
get it. before we get it,
Right.
but the
Right.
lay person should not be R&Ding on their pet. It should be
Right.
done in a controlled, all variables controlled environment. But also it kind of feels odd saying that because you're like, I don't want to test on animals, like I don't want
But the thing
I don't
is
want
that
my
you're
makeup being
testing.
tested on animals. I don't
Right.
want
No, of course not.
it's not a pharmaceutical, which would probably, or like a trachea transplant that they, try to attempt it in an animal before they do it in a human. That makes sense. But like cannabis, I feel like it's almost a double-edged sword to say you want to do it to help them, but you also like, I know my dogs are scared of thunderstorms and fireworks. I don't know why. They've never had an issue. Nothing ever happened. It's just loud noises and make them uncomfortable. I don't know how my dog would feel because when I first smoked cannabis, I got very anxious and uncomfortable and panicky because I ingested or inhaled too much THC and I wouldn't smoke it again. And I didn't. From 16 to 32, I did not.
Oh my God, that was like me.
I would not do it. I did not like weed. I was not a pot smoker, but then I realized how to do it and low and slow, like barbecue. And so what I worry about is that feeling I had when I was 16. My dog's going to feel that way and they're going to be super anxious and uncomfortable. And I know it'll wear off or whatever, but still, I don't want to put him in that
Well,
mindset.
you're not giving him the same. So we know that they have more receptors, meaning they're more sensitive. So you're not going to give him the same stuff that you're taking
Oh, I
because of
wouldn't
that
let my
reason.
dog smoke anyways.
Right. No, of
Like
course. You wouldn't let him
that would
smoke
be
either.
weird and that would be
Right.
awfully
But you can give him a
uncomfortable.
tincture instead. That's a hemp product that has just that little bit of THC to make it work, but not enough to make them high. So what it does, and you also have to remember that the strains we use in each of our tinctures are grown to have cannabinoid profiles that have the more calming cannabinoids, or for instance, in our heel, the strains that have more CBN or CBG in them because they're better for seizures kind of thing. So our calm formulation has lavender essential in it, lavender essential oil in it also, which is an adaptogen and shares some of those same calming compounds that cannabis does. So when you put the two of those together and give it to your dog, you will see. And I would love to send you a bottle so you can see how it works.
Sawyer
But
takes some for his hips because he's a red bone coonhound that has bad hips.
oh, good.
And
I have a formula for that too. So it is it's just taking what these plants and their compounds are known and have been studied for and combining them and letting them do the work. But what happens is that your dog, you're going to find his dose. So it has nothing to do with weight. It's what is going to work for that dog. So it could be half a dropper, could be full dropper. So it could be 6 milligrams, it could be 12 milligrams. Or in the case of my 9-pound schnauzer, it was 24 milligrams to get him to calm down.
it's like the whole bottle for Sawyer. I mean, he can eat silica packets and he'll be fine. Like he gets stung, he gets bit, he eats stuff he's not supposed to. Like he gets weird nose cancer, and then I have to break the bank fixing that. Like he's the one that everything goes. He has lumps on his little body. And I was listening to the podcast that you were hosting where you have different pet professionals that are offering advice or just insight. The one I was listening to, you had a veterinarian on that was talking about lumps, bumps, and tumors that you find on your dog, which is
Yep.
something that a lot of people will over exaggerate the fix, which they just automatically think, oh my gosh, take it out. Like
Right.
I gotta put him on, and it's not always the right answer. And I've had that experience as well, where I went to one vet and they're like, listen, they hadn't even seen him yet. They were like, we just want to prepare you that if you have to put him down, this is normally, we haven't tested him, but just be prepared that the test is going to come back unfavorable and you're going to have to let him go. I was like, we're on the phone. I'm trying to
Right.
find out where you're
Wow.
located in
Wow.
Gainesville. And you already told me my dog's going to die. Like,
Right.
I was like, I'm going to get a second opinion because you're not so cheerful. And then ended up finding out that, like, even without pathology and stuff, like, I didn't even ask for pathology. I was like, just whatever, it bothers him. And they took it, or it went away actually all by itself. They took the eye one off because it was bothering his vision. And they said it's gonna mess with his retina and stuff if we didn't take it out. So they took off the eye cancer, they left the nose cancer, and it went away.
But now we know everything about your dog.
No,
We
I'm
have,
just saying Gainesville has horrible veterinarians. That's all.
I think they probably have some good ones as well.
The one I
They
call,
do,
just
but
the
I
one I
mean,
call.
but look at how you're not, both our doctors and veterinarians aren't taught about diet and nutrition or about the endocannabinoid system. So what they are able to do is limited. And when they have something, they can only deal with whatever they were taught to do. That's what I think is the worst, is that we're literally not told about the options. Yep, your dog has osteosarcoma, but we have to immediately amputate the leg. Radiation chemotherapy didn't even mention the holistic options or what cannabis and adaptogens can do. So I now, if you were a friend of mine, I'd be like, yeah, no, you don't need to go to the vet. Here's a salve and put this on the gums, and we will help the body get rid of that cancer on the nose and on the eye.
Yeah, we just put it on the
That's what
nose.
happens.
And it went away. Like it was fine. But like when you're talking about lumps and bumps found inside the body, not something you can topically treat, you don't know if it is going to be something problematic. What is your suggestion for people that are trying to take the holistic route, knowing what you know now about veterinarian care and how they are kind of pushing people? What would you suggest they do? Because
So
lumps and bumps
what
scare
I
the shit
used
out
to
of
do.
people.
Well, if it's lumps and bumps and you can see them,
Hmm.
that is literally the animal's body trying to get rid of the toxins out of its body. You cutting it out or off isn't going to do anything. And if it is cancerous, it's already turned into cancer, you're actually going to make things worse. If they're tumors inside the body, then yeah, we need to deal with it and see what it is immediately. What I used to do is that I have like a whole team of holistic and integrative vets now. Unfortunately, none of them lived by me. So I would go get the blood work and x-rays done at like my emergency vet, who I liked more than anybody around me, and then send them to my favorite trusted holistic vet and do telemedicine with them and
Hmm.
say, what do you see? What should I do? That type of thing, and go from there. And the other really cool thing that's happening in the holistic space is that we have one of our famous holistic veterinarians, Dr. Ruth Roberts, has started a holistic pet health program where people can get certified as pet health coaches and then help coach people through, how do you do a holistic protocol for my dog that has this, or this. And then they always have Dr. Ruth's ear and expertise. And now, she's had a couple classes graduate. So now there's this whole team of people who have been using the medicine now and having the same success over and over again. So now, I mean, I've had the company now for over 5 years. So I have hundreds, thousands of pet parents, veterinarians, practitioners, trainers getting rid of their dogs' lumps and bumps by treating them holistically. Some just have to change their diet, learning how a lot of the food out there is, what people don't understand is animals are considered property. If I'm an evil player like Mars Pet Care, who also makes candy, and I make a dog food or a supplement that kills your dog, which they have, you sue me, we go to court, the judge goes, how much were your bills? How much were your vet bills? That's all. They're considered objects. So if
Yeah,
you're
they
an evil player, what a great industry to get into and make a lot of money. And that's what happens on a regular basis. I just went to this big industry conference and it was totally controlled by the big players, and then entrepreneurs were there. And they literally talk about animals as these awesome objects that do so much for us, instead of these living, feeling beings that literally are evolving with us and are truly our best friends.
I read an article recently about people saying or advocating for the just stopping domestic animals, no longer having domestic animals,
Hmm.
and advocating for that to happen.
How
And
do you do
I'm
that? It's
thinking,
too
how is that
late.
even like
Yeah.
possible at this point? We've already done too much.
But
But
dogs are actually, have been bred over thousands of years to be domestic animals.
right, but these people are advocating that because of inappropriate pet ownership and
Hmm.
neglect, and just abuse, that it's because there are these available resources where you could just go get a free dog if you wanted to. It doesn't mean you have to take care of it. Nobody really checks up and verifies. I mean, they like to say they do, but they don't. And I know that the rescues that I've got, like, I literally had to commit a felony to get one of them, but it was for his best interest. So the one thing, and then also how you care for the pet, if you choose to fight your dog, if you choose to love your dog, if you choose to vaccinate your dog, that's another thing that people that has changed recently over my life is the vaccinations. And I always thought the non-vaxxers with the kids, the people they
No,
didn't want
two
their
different
kids to
types
get
of people.
vaxxed.
Yeah.
I always
Isn't
thought
it
they were
awful?
flat
You can't even,
earthers.
yeah, you can't even say the word vaccine anymore without having, what? What do you
I
have?
know. So, but it is something that with animals, I've seen since I've been an animal owner that it has changed as far as how frequently you're supposed to get a rabies, bordetella, or parvo, or, all of the, uh, there's another fun one in there. Um,
Lepto, there's a whole bunch.
what have you realized because of the loss of Lucy, and as much as I want to say that because you switched things up when you had Odie, I also think that sometimes it's just the way it goes. I don't think you should blame yourself for the way that you treated
Oh,
Lucy being any different. It's just the way it is because
well,
no one teaches you
genetics,
how to be a good dog owner.
right. Genetics do play a role in it. Absolutely. But what also happens when a dog turns 7, 8, or 9 is they become senior citizens, and
Yeah.
they don't look like senior citizens, but those of us who, are over 40 know that you had to stop eating certain things or drinking certain alcoholic beverages or whatever it is as you got older because your body said, nope, I'm not tolerating that anymore. And the same thing happens with our pets. I forgot what you actually asked me.
I
I'm
was
sorry.
wondering about vaccinations because
Oh,
this is something where
vaccinations.
people are just kind of told, if you can't board your dog here, or you can't come to the dog park unless you can prove you've had a rabies vaccination. You can't board them unless they've had a bordetella. So
Right.
what is your experience with people and mandatory vaccinations being not so good for the animal?
So, what I've learned the most since I've been in the holistic pet space is that what works for us works for them. So we only get our vaccinations when we're young kids. We get our vaccinations for life, and we don't have to get them every single year, and neither do pets. So over vaccination is a huge issue, and we can link so many diseases and issues with it. Um, what this is what I always love to tell is this story. So veterinarians have to get the rabies vaccination because they work with dogs, right? Do you think that every single year they just give that veterinarian a rabies vaccination? No. They do
Mm-mm.
something called a titers test. And a titers test whether you still have the antibodies in you and whether you need that vaccination or not. So do not give your dog another vaccination. Instead, get a titers test, which will prove to you that they do not need that vaccination. All of my dogs, Odie, never vaccinated past, when he was initially vaccinated. And I never did a titers test because I saw it done so many times on other dogs where they were still showing the antibodies and no issues and problems. But I never had any of those issues or problems or diseases. I also didn't require the vaccinations at my very busy groom shop or boarding facility because I realized how the evil all feeds into each other, and was going to be known as the holistic natural grooming and boarding facility because it didn't make sense to me, and I bought into the business. So yeah, I saw where we had to get all of these vaccination records, and that's when I just started going, do I really need to go force these people to give? Why would I give a 12-year-old, 15-year-old dog a vaccination? Or why would I give a dog who's got cancer or is sick a vaccination? So um, it's it's just education, and it's a way, we got to remember that it's a way to get you back into that vet office
Right.
sometimes to get to maybe to see your dog. But yeah, you don't ever get forced or give your dog a vaccination that you don't want to.
Do you think over vaccination of pets leads to your dog being on the spectrum?
Probably.
I'm just saying that's
Or,
what the
or at least the
non-vaxxer parents
chemicals.
seem to
Yeah, at
think.
least the
Justin,
other
stop
chemicals.
laughing. It's a legitimate question because I swear, like, if it happens with people, the argument could be said that
Right.
because I over vaccinated Sawyer, that's why he does what he does. That is a big
Beautiful rooster.
Is it a rooster? How do you know if it's a rooster?
Is it?
I
Yeah,
mean,
it's a rooster.
Yes. Okay, good. I was like, I'm
Justin,
hoping I got him right.
you just be nicer. I mean, it's
Yeah.
how do you know?
Because I could you just tell.
I
Well,
just
he's
I
got the
would love
big
to think I could just tell, but I don't want to do that.
he's got a big fancy tail, and he's got this is all bigger.
Yeah,
So
because
that's
he's
how
like
I could tell.
he's clucking around, he's keeping all the okay, listen, his farm may seem whimsical, may seem magical right now, but I've been there. And those roosters will go around raping those hens whenever they feel like it. And I'm like, come over here, get away from them, and come into the shed. And no, they don't go. I guess it's just the way it is. But I had to get used to being on the farm over there and watching all of that animal sexual assault happening.
Yep. Yep. It is interesting to watch farm animals and then compare them to humans and go, oh yeah.
It's
uh-huh.
really, it is. Like, I feel like there should be like a little hen
You know
group where they
damn
can
well
talk.
if men could run up and jump on you and have a quickie, it would be happening all over the place.
I'm just saying, I feel like there needs to be a support system.
Did you ever watch Isabella Rossellini's green porno?
No, but I'm totally
Ooh,
into
get
this. Let's
yourself some
talk
good
about it.
cannabis and watch it because it's fantastic. She basically just shows you how all animals have sex in nature. And one of
Okay,
the
so that's
most
actually right up my alley because
yeah.
that's
And she acts it out. She like dresses up as them and acts it out. It is the most brilliant, funniest shit you're ever gonna watch.
I'm
But
totally down for
ducks,
this. I'm
do you have
totally
any
down.
ducks?
I
Justin, do
don't
you have any ducks?
I don't
Not
think so.
anymore. I have
They're
a
the
pond.
worst of
I have
the
a
rapers.
pond. Yeah, and I don't want the ducks in the pond because they
I remember
sully it.
Oh gosh. I remember watching a documentary about I think it was whatever, someplace that's not in America. And they had these wild cats, and I think they were some sort of like jungle cat, whatever. And they were trying to describe what was happening. And it was presentation of the female to the male, and then they called it the most briefest of unions before he bit her in the neck and then ran off.
Yeah.
And I was like, how is this? He made it seem so eloquent, like it was just
Right, that
nature being nature. No,
that sounds like my escapades.
he came up, he did his thing, he bit her in the neck, and
Right, and
then
then you run
ran
off.
off. And she's
Is that
probably
what everyone
knocked up.
does?
She's probably alone. She's
No, Justin,
probably
that's not
gonna
normal.
have to struggle. She's probably
Like,
Catholic and doesn't have a lot of choices, and then they called it the most briefest of unions. And I'm
yeah,
like,
Now,
it's
these are animals or humans?
no, they were like wild cats. They
exactly,
were like
Oh, okay,
jungle
my bad.
cats, panthers or something.
30, 40 seconds, the neck bite, run off. That's
Yeah,
Right.
it was
isn't
actually
that what
very,
everyone
very
does?
quick. And then bit her in the neck really hard and then just ran off and left her knocked up and alone. Briefest of unions. Yes. So I'm totally down. I'm gonna watch this. Now, we're at the end of the show where you get to talk about whatever it is you're working on next. Plug
I
and
didn't
play
even talk
your
about fungi.
socials.
Yeah, that's actually what I wanted to ask you is I wanted to know a little bit more about those, about which fungi you're using primarily, and then maybe delve into just theoretically what you think might be happening with psilocybin when a dog takes it. What are they thinking? But let's come back to that one.
That's
Okay.
a big question because I don't know how they would measure that. But you said for
I don't either.
PTSD.
Yeah. Oh, the only thing we could see is behavior changes. That's literally the only way that we could see, okay, this is what's different. He's now not scared anymore.
Or
Like
he's
literally
licking the
fear is
wall.
gone.
I mean, is it just sort of melting away they don't know, or is it like DMT and they're entering into like some space portal time and they see
DMT is
things
a
differently?
disassociative.
Well,
No, they're feeling everything.
I would say it's we're microdosing him. So he's not getting any of that. He's just getting the therapeutic part of it.
Oh, well, that's
So
no fun.
yeah. So with with the mushrooms that we use, they're both functional foods and functional medicines. So as functional medicines, you know, they have to be grown on the substrate they are found in nature to have all those medicinal compounds. So like hemp, most people are growing it wrong. Well, not like hemp, but it's not regulated. At least the growing of hemp is. But mushrooms, most people are growing on a grain substrate in a bag in a damp basement somewhere. So
I know
also
a
you
guy
have,
that grows in his back extra bedroom in Orlando.
yeah, a
Yeah,
lot
is
of
that the
that's
same?
happening.
On a grain
It
substrate.
Yeah, on a
Sure.
grain substrate.
I think it
So
was a kit he bought from Amazon.
yeah,
Yeah, same
totally
thing.
happening all over the
Same.
place. And not that those are bad, but if we're using them as medicine, they have to be getting hemp and mushrooms are bioaccumulators. They suck everything out of the ground and earth.
Yep.
So if it's not the right thing, then you're not getting the true natural medicine that is in them. But some of the most interesting things about mushrooms are that they're 30%, they shared 30% of our DNA. They're not plants and they're not animals.
Mm-mm.
And they're both a functional food and a functional medicine. And so again, I think it's just one of these things that we're supposed to be consuming all the time that exist in nature. Nature provides us with everything that we need. So I deal mostly with lion's mane, reishi, cordyceps, chaga, red-belted conch, artist conch. Those are my favorite. I know the most about because those are the ones that I can source here in the United States. I know the farmers, they're growing them right. I have a myco-alchemist who extracts them right. And when you extract those medicinal properties out of them and put them in a preservative, they do amazing things. So just like all the anti-cancer, anti-tumor effects of cannabis, so do the mushrooms. And mushrooms are adaptogens, so pairing them with cannabis, you can do some amazing things. And my favorite so far is I have been able to I put cancer in remission 4 times on my rescue farm, and ended up losing 2 of the dogs to dementia, to CCD, doggy cognitive disorder, which is Alzheimer's in dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, do you guys know how you die from that? Because
No.
I didn't either. They literally forget how to eat and drink.
Oh, okay. Like,
So
yeah, I guess we could
lions,
assume we would know what would happen at the very end of it,
yeah,
where
but the dog, imagine a 16-and-a-half-year-old dog getting up, going over to the water bowl because it wants to drink, but
and it
has
just doesn't.
forgotten how to.
Oh, that's devastating.
And the fact, right? And the
Yeah.
fact that there are all natural things like lion's mane, astragalus root, Bacopa monnieri, these are 2 adaptogens, and lion's mane being the mushrooms, have already been proven in research, clinical research, to regrow telomeres, to regenerate neurons. And when I've given these extracts to these old dogs, I've literally watched them go from sundowners walking around in the middle of the night, having to go pee, not go pee, get the drink, not get the drink, restlessness, getting lost, you know, in rooms and standing in corners, to totally making eye contact, looking at me, giving me kisses for the first time. These are a lot like rescues that I brought in with CCD. So that's why mushrooms became really, I was like, okay, this
How
is my new thing for
how
these
long do
old
you
dogs.
usually have to treat them before you start seeing changes like that?
You never
Yeah.
stop. They have a new piece of research showing that after 2 weeks, if you took lion's mane and you stopped it, you go back to the way you were. So
Go back
that's
to
another,
Charlie.
yeah, yes. Is that the name of her dog?
No,
You've got,
flowers for Algernon reference.
yeah,
Oh, you're so funny.
but
But
it's
yes,
a
it's
lifestyle
amazing.
change for the dog, right? It's not something where you can just dabble in it and then they get better. This is you have to change everything you're providing this animal because this is what's
No,
going
it's
to.
just something you add into what you're
Yeah.
already doing. So
Okay, sorry.
mushrooms,
Yeah, it's a
yeah,
supplement to
mushrooms,
your current
right.
situation,
So
but you
mushrooms are
can't
easy
stop.
because they're water. So you can put them in food, put them everywhere. Of course, hemp, you want to put the oil right on their gums for the best absorption into their bloodstream. But both of them, hemp's kind of the same way too. You know, I can get rid of my dog's arthritic pain. He feels better. He's playing. When I stop giving it to him, the pain comes back. So that's why I feel like these plants and fungi are supposed to be a part of our everyday life. And then mushrooms as food, you know, eating them, the outer
Mm.
layer, the chitin, is the most, you know, chopping them up and putting them in the oven, or, you know,
I only eat
sauteing them.
mushrooms if something's going to happen in about an hour after. And I hate saying that, but that's the truth. I hate eating psychedelic mushrooms because they taste like regular mushrooms and I hate mushrooms, but
Yeah,
I
I know.
seem to manage to do it. Like I'll just pull through.
I
Now,
love that earthy taste.
oh, I hate it.
And
I'm
there's
thinking
some that
about
are
it right
better
now
than,
and it's going to make me sick.
yeah, there's
Yeah.
some that are better than others. Like maitake is so thin and you can like absorbs any flavor, kind of like tofu, so they're easier. But what's so cool about them is that they feed the gut microbiome for 13 days straight. So
That's
literally when
cool.
you, yeah, when you've
Like,
got a nice mushroom film intestines, you literally could eat anything bad. It's not going to get absorbed or hurt. It's going to go right through you. And it's the easiest way and natural way to feed your gut microbiome.
all
Now,
right.
you're saying though that when you cook them, do they have to be raw to achieve this?
Yes. So that's
I feel
when
like
you're using them
everything
as
should be
food.
raw.
So you're going to break it down, that chitin, just a little bit, enough, so that you can get a lot of the minerals and vitamins that are also in that mushroom. I say
Hmm.
mushrooms and cannabis are going to save the world, because all of our
I
food is,
agree.
you know,
I
void.
concur.
I have a t-shirt. I usually wear it. I'll send you one if you want one. I'll send you
I'm
one with the
totally
calm tincture so you can try it. I want to see
I
if
will
it
totally
helps
rock
your
the
dog.
t-shirt. And I do believe that cannabis and mushrooms will. But
When
not the
you
I don't want it in my food. I just don't want to know
when
I'm
you
taking.
when you extract mushrooms, is it important to do it in hot water?
Absolutely. It's the only way to do it. But also many of the mushrooms you have to also do an alcohol extraction, because you
Hmm.
cannot get to the medicinal properties. So turkey tail, for instance, PSK, PSP, two of the polysaccharides that are already being used as anti-cancer drugs in Japan, can't get to them unless you do an alcohol extraction.
Are we
So
talking
again,
ethanol?
yes, it can be ethanol. Yes.
And when you were just a moment ago when you mentioned, was it maitake coating
Mhm.
the gas? Is that something where you would just eat a maitake mushroom, or you're talking
No,
again
you
about
want
the
to cook it up a
extracts?
little bit. Yeah. You want to cook it up. So you need to break down that chitin just a little bit so that you can absorb it, but it's like the best fiber and prebiotic you could possibly take. And that's with
So
any
just
of
a
these
light
edible
cooking.
mushrooms. Yeah.
Next
Okay.
episode, Justin. Because now you're gonna get all you just said you wouldn't do it, get all up in the mushroom talk, which you know is gonna be an episode we have to do on mushrooms.
And you know
It's
what? It doesn't have to be me. I could bring on my myco alchemist. He's like gets really deep into it.
as
But
long as
yeah.
Oh,
everybody's on the same stuff, we're fine. Bring whoever you want. We're all just gonna be floating. At that point, we probably won't even remember to record it. So, this was great, Angela. Thank you for joining us today. We were really
thank you.
excited to learn more about the holistic way of treating animals. Obviously, Justin and myself are huge dog lovers.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of cats, but throwing that out there. Or roosters, by the way. So everything else is pretty
I
cool.
prefer chickens over cats.
There you go. I prefer chickens over cats as well. So, Justin, go ahead. Signing off for
Keep
the Marijuana Mind
keeping it
podcast,
lean, keeping it green as always.
keeping your spleen. And Merry Christmas and
Maitake queen.
happy whatever you celebrate. So Merry holidays, everybody. I know that
That's right.
is Hanukkah over, Justin?
Yeah, I'm afraid so. We have another year before the next Hanukkah.
Oh.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Last episode, you were like right in the middle and you couldn't remember which Hanukkah day it was, which candle was being lit. You're so good at being a Jew. And your girls get Christmas too coming up too. They get Hanukkah presents and Christmas presents. They're
That's right.
spoiled.
They have a
Isn't that normal
Manhattan
for every
Christmas.
Floridian? I thought
I
that was
mean,
normal for every Floridian.
I don't know when Hanukkah starts unless they tell me on the news or Justin tells me. I'm just an honorary right now, like I'm entry level. And he's teaching me how to say certain words. Yeah,
Awesome.
like Manischewitz,
Oh, I used to love
etc.
Manischewitz.
All right. We will talk to you next week. Thank you. And do you have anything else you want to say, Justin?
No, I don't.
Okay, good.
Thank you guys. Nice meeting
Thank
you.
you so much.
You
Bye.
bet.